Welcome to the Evening News brought to you by Bosco. I'm Kavia, here to report on the post-war economy. With the war drawing to a close, several governmental officials in Washington, D.C. and across the country have come to have one concern in mind: the economy. Questions are asked frantically on a daily basis. Will our country after the war be able to handle the development on a national scale? Will we be able to stabilize the economy? And will there be another economic depression? President Truman has provided Congress with a comprehensive plan which he believes will ensure long-lasting economic stability. Proposed plans include public housing, medical insurance, higher minimum wage, and broader Social Security coverage. Yet another plan includes signing a bill cutting taxes by $6 billion. Okay. $600. Yet another plan includes signing a bill cutting taxes by $6 billion and price controls as well. Unfortunately, this has resulted in inflation across the board. Food prices have increased by 25% in a 2-year span from 1945 to 1947. This slight economic unrest has proven to affect the American people, as they have voted in a Republican-controlled Congress in hopes of bringing change to the economy. Republicans have been quick to put their plans into action as the Taft-Hartley bill has been passed. Although Truman vetoed it, Congress was able to override the president's decision. Another legislation that has been passed is the GI Bill of Rights, which has provided veterans with a better opportunity to educate themselves. They are better prepared for the workforce and learn different skills as well. However, women have gained the most from the post-war prosperity. They've become a larger influence in the U.S. job market as they account for nearly 25% of it, and the percentage has increased over the decades to reaching over 50%. And now we go to Matt for the report on the Marshall Plan.
Thanks, Kavia. With the European nations in the process of recovery from the Second World War, let us now take a look back at one of the biggest contributing factors for this astounding economic revival, the Marshall Plan. Officially known as the European Recovery Plan, it was a massive aid package. While it was passed in 1937, its effects were not felt until a year later, just in time for elections. Like most major spending, it had both its supporters and its critics. In its 4 years of operation, our country spent over $13 billion in Europe alone, nearly 5% of our GDP in 1948. In spite of the large amount of money spent, it turns out that we were not losing nearly as much as we thought, as much of the money went into the purchase of American goods. However, there is no denying the effect it had on Europe. The countries receiving aid recorded an average of 35% growth in industry, and many countries exceeded their pre-war capacity. However, no image of the period gives a better idea of its success than the Berlin airlift. Let me take you back to a time of panic, with capitalists in Berlin completely cut off in the middle of communist East Germany. With food and supplies limited, it seems as if the free market would fall. But then come the planes. Supplies and food came pouring in from the American Air Force. Now, with tons of supplies and their own currency backed by Marshall Plan funds, the West Berliners outlasted the blockade and took their first step in the fight against communism. With the full might of the United States economy behind them, the Western European nations grew and prospered, while communist countries fell by the wayside one by one. The Berlin airlift became a symbol of Truman's success and an important part of his bid for re-election. Now for more on that re-election bid, let's go to Adam.
Thanks, Matt. And now for some background information on Truman's recent defeat of Dewey in 1948. Early on in the campaign, polls showed that Truman's popularity was very low. People thought he was an incompetent president. The Republicans, expecting an easy victory, nominated Thomas Dewey. It is worth noting that this Republican convention was the first to be televised. The Democrats nominated Truman after strongly considering nominating someone else. Southern Democrats were angered by this and formed their own party, the Dixiecrats. Truman had also alienated liberals because of his containment policy. He went on a series of speeches where he talked of lazy Republicans and warned workers that if Dewey was elected, they would lose everything that they had gained from the New Deal. These speeches, along with the Berlin airlift, caused his popularity to rise again. Meanwhile, Dewey was failing to inspire voters with his dull speeches. Even so, polls still showed that Dewey would win on the day of the election. Surprisingly, Truman pulled through at the last second and won the election with 24.1 million votes, while Dewey trailed behind with only 21.9 million votes. The Chicago Tribune evidently paid too much attention to the polls when they printed the paper stating Dewey defeats Truman. When we come back, a report on the containment policy. Now a word from our sponsors.
Hi, kids. Look at some delicious magic with the extra good chocolate-flavored syrup, Bosco. Now watch. Take ice cream, spoon on extra rich, extra thick, extra chocolatey Bosco syrup. There's the best chocolate flavor you ever tasted. More Bosco magic. Cake, ice cream, topped with extra thick, extra chocolatey Bosco syrup. Try it. Bosco also makes milk chocolatey delicious. Tell Mom to get Bosco chocolate-flavored syrup for you. Sing out,
I love Bosco, it's rich in chocolate tea. Chocolate-flavored Bosco is mighty good for me. Mama puts it in my milk for extra energy. Bosco gives me iron and sunshine vitamin D. Oh, I love Bosco, that's the drink for me.
say, it's time for my favorite dance team, so let's look. A box of matches and a pack of old gold cigarettes. That's all you need, my friend. And you're enjoying the smoothest, mildest, tastiest cigarette ever created. A treat instead of a treatment. That's old gold cigarettes. Made by tobacco men, not medicine men. To give you the cigarette that treats you better in every way. Because in every way, it's a better cigarette. Good, huh? Yes, for a treat instead of a treatment. Get a pack or get a carton of old gold cigarettes. Right now, this is Dennis James reminding you to keep smoking old gold cigarettes. Thanks.
Welcome back, folks. And here's the report on the containment policy. In Russia, Stalin was making it clear that he would not even consult with any European leaders about his domination of Eastern Europe. Stalin was intent on expanding his empire into Central Europe, which was devastated after the war. Already controlling parts of Mongolia, Manchuria, North Korea, and the Kuril Islands, Stalin seemed unstoppable. What made him so powerful was the fact that he didn't demobilize his Red Army after World War II, which was estimated at twice the size of the American army. Although there was domestic pressure to demobilize the army, Stalin would shoot his enemies to keep them out of office and retain his power. Stalin, like Hitler, was a cruel dictator that dreamed of world domination and created fear all throughout Europe with his enormous army. On March 1947, the U.S. made one final effort to cooperate with the Soviet Union during the Moscow Conference, but no compromises could be reached. In an issue of Foreign Affairs, George Kennan, an officer who served in Moscow, declared that the best way to deal with the Soviet Union was a policy, long-term, patient, but firm and vigilant containment. All in all, containment seems to be an unrealistic idea of solving our problems with Russia rather than a plan of action. And now here's Tala with containing communism abroad.
Thanks, Adam. It finally happened in April of 1949. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, was established. Along with the U.S., members include Great Britain, Canada, France, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Denmark, Norway, Portugal, and Iceland. All countries agreed that an attack against any one of them constituted an attack against all of them. All and any actions, including those of armed forces, were deemed necessary in these circumstances. 3 years later, in 1952, the European nation of Greece also entered NATO. Turkey was then admitted, increasing the number of members to 15. With more about our battle against communist Soviet Union, news arrived in September of 1949 that the Soviets had detonated their first atom bomb. Of course, President Truman called for the development of the one and only hydrogen bomb, causing a controversial uproar. The Atomic Energy Commission argued fervently against the super bomb, saying it would cause an arms race with the Soviet Union. The Joint Chiefs of Staff retorted with the arguments that the Soviets would build a hydrogen bomb anyway, and having one in existence would intimidate all enemies. Either way, President Truman decided to begin the development of the hydrogen bomb in January of 1950. Communism is continuing to spread through the world as China fell to the communist leader Mao Zedong, and nationalists led by Chiang Kai-shek fled to the island of Formosa near the end of 1949. Political turmoil accordingly erupted among Congress, and Republicans leapt on the chance to blame President Truman for the fall of China. Dean Acheson, General Marshall's replacement as Secretary of State, submitted his review of the containment policy to the National Security Council, and the NSC-68 was designated. The NSC-68 included military expansion of America, increased spending of nearly 350%. They justify this with the argument that it would ensure American superiority and prevent the spread of communism. It also declared the Soviet Union bent on worldwide domination, and that this increase of government spending would surely break their economy. Not surprisingly, Mr. President was shocked at the costs when the NSC-68 was shown to him in April of 1950. Yet the expansion of our military was inevitable if we were to stop the Soviets from winning this Cold War. This evening news has been brought to you by Bosco. Thank you and good night.